Hey folks, so over the past few days, maybe even the past week or week and a half, I've noticed that there's been a change in the tone with a lot of prepper channels. Some have always been inclined towards the doom and gloom, the shocking video titles that grab your attention, things about nuclear war, Armageddon, things like that. Some channels have always kind of leaned in that direction. And then there's another group of channels that tend to lean more the opposite direction, where people prep for these things, they talk about these things, but it's always stressing remaining calm, being proactive, not reactive, not letting the fear get to you. But a lot of the channels that don't normally spread the doom and gloom or create these sensationalized videos are doing it now. And that's not to say, I don't want to say that these things aren't real, these things aren't legitimate concerns. Of course they are. Nuclear war, World War III, diesel shortages, all of this is a real concern for us, for all of us. And there's a fine line between spreading the word about certain events that are going on, staying aware of certain events, and letting the fear take hold and dictate what your reaction is going to be. We always want to prep from a standpoint of an understanding of what's going on, what the risks are, and what we can do to prepare for it and to thrive when a lot of other people are suffering. That's the goal of prepping. And if you're filled with fear or anxiety, you're not really prepping the proper way. You're letting all of this stuff get to you, and it's going to influence your actions, it's going to influence your decisions and your choices. Sorry if my throat's a little rough right now. So sorry if my voice isn't quite right today. But when you let all of this fear consume you, let this anxiety fill you up, again, that dictates, that controls and influences your choices, the way you go about doing things, and you're not always going to be the most efficient, the most rational. Because if you're full of fear and anxiety, of course you're not going to be rational. You're not going to think things through as clearly. You're going to think, oh God, I got to do this. I got to do that. I need this done. I need that done. And you're more apt to make a bad decision or do something that might bite you in the butt later on. If you listen to a lot of these channels that talk about World War III, yes, I talk about it myself sometimes. It's a concern. But if you watch a lot of these channels and you let that fear creep in, that anxiety get to you, you're going to rush out and you're going to spend all your money on potassium iodide, gas masks, hazmat suits, NBC gear, things like that. And you're not going to be spending it on things that would help you in more than one situation. See, when you buy stuff like that, there's only one use for that stuff. And it may or may not be needed. But in almost any survival or SHTF situation, just about every situation you could imagine, food and water will be critical. Okay, if you go out and spend all your money on Geiger counters or the little cards that detect radiation, I can't even think of the word for them now. It's been a long day and I'm tired. The Thyrosafe, the potassium iodide tablets, the gas masks, the filters, and all that stuff, that might help you if there's a nuclear attack, if there's a nuclear explosion or a bomb dropped somewhere nearby where you're not in the immediate blast zone, but you're still within range of being affected by the fallout. That'll help you then. But it won't help you if there's a power outage from rolling blackouts due to the grid going down. It won't help you if there's filthy water. Your water supply is contaminated with debris and sewage and stuff like that. It won't help you if you're unable to grow food because of a drought or because of a flood or whatever. It won't help you in the event of a wildfire or something, or even a brush fire burning your home down. It doesn't help you for that. We need to make sure that the priority in prepping is to work on those areas that will give us the most security in the widest range of events. Whether it's a job loss, as bad as it is to say, the death of a family member, a severe injury or illness that keeps us from going to work. Those are far more likely to happen than nuclear war. Things that will help us through an economic collapse or civil unrest. Believe it or not, those are more likely to happen than a nuclear war. Now, a lot of people might disagree with me, and that's fine. I'm not saying nuclear war and World War III is not a threat. It is. It's a big threat that we need to pay attention to. And I try to pay attention to it, but it's one of those things that no matter what I do, I have no control over the outcome of that. And surviving something like that is purely a stroke of luck. It's just a matter of odds. It all depends on if bombs drop, where they drop, how close you are to where they detonate, the size of the bombs and stuff like that. And we can't control any of that. And to be fair, during an economic collapse or civil unrest, we can't control any of that either. But it's a lot easier for us to prepare for contingencies. Being locked down in our homes for security reasons, for safety reasons, we'll need food and water. We'll need power. We'll need a way of defending ourselves. So it's just it's really important that you prep rationally. You think things through. You do threat assessments, figure out what the biggest threat to you is and the best way to prepare for that threat in an eventuality that it does happen. And the benefit to this, for example, let's just use the economic collapse as an example. If we prepare for an economic collapse, what are we talking about? We're talking about food, water, some money, or a way of making money, or a way of bartering either supplies or skills for the things that we need, and a way of defending ourselves. Well, all of those things will help us out regardless of whether we're talking about an economic collapse, civil unrest, in the event of a pandemic, for example. All of those things would have helped us out then. I guess what I'm saying is that sometimes you have to step away. If you're feeling a lot of anxiety, if you're feeling a lot of fear, step away, clear your mind, and focus on things that you can do that will make an impact on your survivability regardless of what happens. I'm not going to sink all my money into NBC gear. It would be nice to have that, but it takes a lot of money to prep for that. And I look at it this way. Either I'm going to get taken out. If there's a nuclear attack, I'm either going to get taken out or I'm going to survive it. One or the other. There's no in between. Either I'm going to die in the initial blast, or, God forbid, I suffer radiation poisoning from the fallout and die slowly that way, or I'm going to be far enough away from the detonation that the mask and stuff would be helpful but not critical. That's the way I look at it anyway. So I would choose to focus on the basics of prepping, because again, if you're prepping for lack of water, lack of food, security, things like this, all the basics, if you cover all of these basics, all of these things will help you through a variety of situations. But if you get this highly specialized stuff and don't get the basics covered, you're not doing yourself any favors. You're doing a disservice to yourself, actually. Not only yourself, but your family, the people that rely on you. So every now and then I have to step away from certain people that spread fear. And a lot of people do it intentionally, and some that don't normally do it, they get caught up in it as well, and maybe they don't even realize they're doing it. I've noticed there's a couple of channels where it's not usually something typical of their channel, but here lately there's been more of it, and you can see it. They're getting concerned. You can tell it's on their mind. They're worried about it, and that anxiety is creeping in. People that used to encourage people to think about being proactive, staying calm, being at peace while you figure out what you need to do, you can suddenly feel the change in the tone. The anxiety, the fear, the concern. And there's a lot of that going on through the prepper channels on YouTube. And not just there, but in other groups as well. So, it's just a trend I've noticed over the past few days. It seems to have picked up more. And this is, ironically, this is concerning to me because a lot of these people, like I said, encourage you to prep from a point of peace, from a calm center. And now you can tell that they're on edge. And when creators do that, again, they may not even be aware that they're doing it or that their demeanor has changed, but that carries on to the viewers. So we have to be on guard against all the things that are going on. We have to be aware of the civil unrest, the risk of civil war, the economic dangers, the dangers of World War III and nuclear war and all that. But one of the biggest threats to our survival is fear and anxiety. Because if you lose your peace of mind, if you allow those two things to destroy your peace of mind, you're not as effective at what you need to be doing. You can't be as effective as you potentially could be when these emotions are controlling everything you do. So it's just an observation that I had that I wanted to share. And again, I know I've probably dipped into this a couple of times myself, where I come across as I'm worried about this, and sometimes it's unintentional. Sometimes you can't help it, but it's one of those things we always have to be on guard against. And understand that it happens to everybody. But again, it is something that we need to be on guard against. Fear and anxiety and worry are things that are as much of a threat to us as civil unrest, as an economic collapse. Because these things can drive you to make poor decisions, and those poor decisions can hurt you, and it can hurt your family. It can hurt the people that rely on you to take care of them. So what I choose to do is, when I start feeling an overabundance of anxiety or fear, I pay attention to it. I try to look at what I can do to resolve that as best I can. And one of the best things that I've found that you can do is, again, just focus on the things that will give you security no matter what happens. So, for example, right now, what I've been focused on the last few days, as you can see, I'm working on this brush pile. I'm trying to get this cleared up so I can clear up my blacksmith shop site. I've been burning a bunch of the wood, as you can see down here. And something that I've noticed, I use a coal forge for a lot of my forging. And in doing a bunch of this burning, I put a bunch of these fires out early because I just ran out of time, and I didn't have time to let them burn down on their own. And as a result, I've got a huge pile of charcoal here. And I got to noticing that the other night when I was doing some burning. And I got to thinking, you know what? You can forge with charcoal. You can cook with charcoal. Forging with charcoal, I use regular coal. A lot of people use gas forges. You can forge with charcoal. It just doesn't burn quite as hot, and you'll go through it a lot faster. But what I was thinking about when I saw this, I had the thought that I need to fix me up a barrel to store my coal in, because right now I've just got it in bags stacked in my shop, and that takes up floor space. These are 50-pound bags. It takes up a lot of space that could be used for something else. If I got like a 55-gallon drum with a removable lid, I could store my coal in that outside and it wouldn't be an issue. It would free up space in my shop. And for me right now, space in my shop is extremely valuable because my shop is extremely small right now, and I've got a lot of tools in there. But anyway, what I was thinking of is that maybe adding a barrel, and as I'm burning all of this brush behind me, doing it like this, getting as much charcoal out of it as I can, and dumping that into its own barrel, cleaning it up, sorting all the debris out of it, the larger sticks, the leaves and whatnot, and wash the dirt out of it, and then let it dry, put it in the barrel, and I can either use that for cooking, or I can add that, mix that in with my regular coal when I'm forging to stretch my coal, or in the event that I run out of coal, I can switch to the charcoal. And that's a thought I had while I was doing that. But no, getting back to what I was talking about, doing things that are productive and get me one step closer to being more self-sufficient, more secure no matter what happens, and having a new shop where I can actually work. If I get laid off, I could step into my shop and I could start making things, or I could barter that skill. I could make things and sell them. That's a incredible advantage if you lose your job. So I'm trying to be proactive and productive and not focus on fear and anxiety. So for a couple of days, I stepped away from the channels and was focusing on things I could do to make my life better. As you can see, I've cleared a good bit of ground. All that right there was covered in brush. So I've done away with nearly half of that pile. I've still got a lot more to do, but that's one thing I've been doing. Another thing I'm doing is right now I've got my dehydrator going. I've actually got some mushrooms in the dehydrator. I'm drying those, and I'm going to be jarring those up, and when those are done, I'm going to get something else and put in there, and I'm just going to start dehydrating. I got some trays that you're supposed to be able to beat up some eggs, pour the liquid into the trays, put those in your dehydrator, and dehydrate the eggs. I need to try those out, experiment with them, see if they work. I've read mixed reviews on those online, so I want to try that myself, make my own powdered eggs, because right now at Augustin Farms, powdered eggs are like $80 or $90 a can. Ready Hour, they're like $74. $80 or $90 a can. Ready Hour, they're like $74. $80 or $90 a can. Ready Hour, they're like $74. $80 or $90 a can. Ready Hour, they're like $74. $80 or $90 a can. Ready Hour, they're like $74. $80 or $90 a can. Ready Hour, they're like $74. $80 or $90 a can. Ready Hour, they're like $74. $80 or $90 a can. Ready Hour, they're like $74. $80 or $90 a can. Ready Hour, they're like $74. $80 or $90 a can. Ready Hour, they're like $74. $80 or $90 a can. Ready Hour, they're like $74. $80 or $90 a can. Ready Hour, they're like $74. $80 or $90 a can. Ready Hour, they're like $74. $80 or $90 a can. Ready Hour, they're like $74. $80 or $90 a can. Ready Hour, they're like $74. $80 or $90 a can. Ready Hour, they're like $74. $80 or Emergency Essentials is like $65, or at least it was the last time I checked. They're the cheapest, but for a number 10 can of powdered eggs, you're looking at 72 eggs in a can for a minimum of $65. That's expensive. But if these trays work, then I'll be able to do that myself. Now, this is not freeze drying. It is dehydrating them, but you'd still be able to use them in baking or whatever. So I want to do that sometime over the next week or so, and then give you some feedback on those trays and whether or not they're worth buying. They weren't that expensive. I got 2 trays for like $13 or something like that. But I've heard some reports that if they get too hot, the trays warp and then they're no good, because the liquid will easily overflow. So again, I've got to try them out and experiment with the setup. Anyway, I've got off track, but anytime you feel that fear, that anxiety creeping in, find something productive to do. Focus on the things that you can do, and try not to think about the things you can't do anything about. Anyway, that's all I've got. Just some thoughts after a long day at work, and some observations on what I've been seeing on other prepper channels, and the vibe I've been getting myself. So I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you found this useful. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't. I appreciate all the likes, all the comments, all you guys that are subscribing. I appreciate it, you guys. And until next time, just stay calm. Try not to let the fear and anxiety get to you. Keep doing something every day. It doesn't matter how small it is. If you're doing something, maybe you're dehydrating some beans, maybe you're drying some herbs for some tea or something. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Grab a bag of rice and a can of chicken. As long as you're doing something, you're a lot further ahead than a lot of other people. But keep prepping, stay busy, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and until next time, folks, I'll catch you later.